are two types of film watchers: those who watch everything with subtitles turned on, and those who just can't bear the damn distraction. No judgment here in either case, but watching movies with subtitles on can be a valuable way to get a little more out of your viewing experience, because subtitle tracks on both home video and streaming services can reveal subtleties about a scene that you'd otherwise have little chance of hearing. Seemingly insignificant incidental dialogue is often mixed down so low that even those wearing headphones are scarcely able to hear it, but thanks to subtitles you're able to know precisely what everybody is saying. While much of this dialogue may be totally minor in the scope of the overall narrative, sometimes these surreptitious one-liners do actually reveal neat details about a movie's story or characters, or even offer up a nifty Easter egg nobody saw coming. And if you manage to catch any of these without subtitles turned on, give yourself a firm pat on the back. I am Kirsten from What Culture, and these are 10 movie details hidden in subtitles. Number 10. Benjamin Stoner's cameo, Joker. Actor Frank Wood has a small role in Joker as the Doctor seen providing a psychological analysis of Arthur Fleck's mother Penny. Despite the seemingly minimal significance of his role, those watching the movie on Blu-ray with subtitles on will find that the character is referred to in captions as Stoner. Furthermore, the film's end credits list Wood's character as Dr. Stoner, seeming to suggest that this is actually the DC villain Dr. Benjamin Stoner, better known as Anti-Fate. Anti-Fate made his comic debut in 1987 after Arkham Asylum's head Dr. Stoner was possessed by a Lord of Chaos Typhon. Donning a magical helmet granted Stoner the powers of flight, invulnerability, and the ability to sense nearby magic. While this was clearly more of an Easter egg than a direct nod towards a future role in any prospective sequel, it's still a cute reference and might also suggest Penny's case may not have been handled in the most honest way. Number 9. The bartender tells Matilda to keep away from the bastards, Inglourious Basterds. Quentin Tarantino's revisionist war film Inglourious Basterds switches dizzyingly between languages like nobody's business, though mercifully the overwhelming majority of the non-English dialogue is subtitled on the movie's home video release. But there is one interesting exception, which was bizarrely rectified when the film landed on Netflix. During the unforgettably tense basement bar sequence, the barmaid, Matilda, is invited to join the German soldiers in their card game. Matilda declines, only for the bartender, Eric, to encourage her in German, before whispering to her in French, "You'll be away from the officers." However, this line is only subtitled in the Netflix version of the film. The implication here is that Eric, unaware of the officers' true identity, the officers, in this case being the bastards, believes that young Matilda will be safer sat with the lowly regular soldiers, given that the officers would effectively be able to abuse her with impunity. This subtle character flourish will be lost, however, on anyone who watches the film on Blu-ray. Number 8. DAC's mysterious Outer Rim contact, Star Wars: The Last Jedi. In the final minutes of Star Wars: The Last Jedi, all of the heroes are assembled on the Millennium Falcon, and Rey has a heart-to-heart with Leia over Luke Skywalker's death. But seconds before this, a sliver of near-inaudible incidental dialogue is spoken, which fans can see for themselves if they watch the movie with subtitles. As we focus on Rey, Commander DAC says to a fellow Resistance soldier, "When we get to the Outer Rim, I have a contact there." The few fans who noticed this once The Last Jedi hit Blu-ray speculated intensely on who DAC could be talking about, with most fans resolving it must be Lando Calrissian. As much as the line suggested a potentially greater role for DAC in The Rise of Skywalker, the line ultimately led to nothing, and given that Lando was eventually found hanging out in the desert planet of Pisana, which isn't on the Outer Rim, she clearly wasn't talking about him. It's still an interesting character tidbit, even if we sadly never got to learn much else about who DAC was, beyond that disappointingly fleeting gay moment at the end of The Rise of Skywalker at least. Number 7. A cloak lined with ermine, Eyes Wide Shut. Stanley Kubrick's final film is a fascinating puzzle box of enigmas, like so many of his movies, and includes a single sliver of secret dialogue that's been dissected by fans ever since the movie first hit DVD almost 20 years ago. Midway through the movie, after Bill enters Mr. Millick's clothing store looking to buy a cloak, his unnamed daughter whispers something inaudible in Bill's ear. Those who turn on subtitles, however, will see that she says, "You should have a cloak lined with ermine," before offering him a long, knowing look. Fans continue to debate the exact meaning of the sentence, but ermine fur comes from a stoat or a weasel, and in fashion is typically linked to European royalty. It seems most likely that the line is implying that the daughter's knowledge of the high-flying secret society Bill later encounters, where ermine-lined cloaks certainly fit the clothing scheme. It's a sly piece of foreshadowing which, unless you're watching with subs, would fly clean over your head. Number 6. Nathan Fillion hates Star-Lord. Guardians of the Galaxy. Nathan Fillion makes a brief cameo in Guardians of the Galaxy as the giant blue inmate who harasses Peter Quill when he and the other Guardians end up in the interstellar prison known as the Kiln. Fillion provides the voice for the hulking brute, who soon enough regrets stepping up on Quill after Groot leaves him sobbing on the floor by shoving his fingers up his nose. The Guardians then depart the scene, with Quill even stepping over the weeping monster, who can be heard sobbing incredibly faintly, "I hate you." You've got little chance of noticing it on your own, but it adds another hilariously goofy layer to the scene when it shows up in subtitles. Number 5. Zombie subtitles. Return of the Living Dead. 1985 cult classic horror film Return of the Living Dead is a very special example of this, because in addition to offering the expected English, French and Spanish subtitles on the Blu-ray, it also features not one, but 2 tracks in Zombie. The first track is totally basic and simply adds undead calls for brains throughout the film, but the second track, which is entitled In Their Own Words, The Zombies Speak, adds a ton of zombified quips to any scene featuring the creatures. For example, when the heroes are attacked by a yellow cadaver near the start of the movie, this novel track adds the one-liner, "You guys can kiss my reanimated yellow ass." And when another zombie loses their arm, they say, "My arm came off, somebody give me a hand." Sure, the one-liners are pretty corny, but this is one of the more amusing attempts to do something different with movie subtitling. Number 4. The Rock's smolder is actually captioned. Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. It's of course vitally important for subtitle captioning to be precise in order to give hard-of-hearing viewers an exact idea of what's going on, though the captioning for Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle took this to hilariously overcommitted ends. When Dr. Smolder Bravestone, played by Dwayne Johnson, learns that he possesses the special ability to smolder, the movie stops temporarily while he smolders intensely, with the captures themselves even noting this fact. Despite the smolder itself being a largely visual element accompanied only by a minor audio cue, it's as though even the subtitles themselves are in awe of The Rock's furrowed brow. It's certainly nice that the captioning has all of the movie's bases covered, and it isn't afraid to have a little fun with itself too. Number 3. Pizza time, Spider-Man Far From Home. Early on in Spider-Man Far From Home, Peter Parker, played by Tom Holland, and his classmates end up in Venice, where they goof around and soak in the sights like any tourist would. But those watching with subtitles might notice that one of Parker's classmates shouts, "Pizza time!" which, while at first glance nothing more than a nod to the fact that they're in Italy, is actually a direct reference to a scene from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. At the start of the movie, Peter, played by Tobey Maguire, makes a belated pizza delivery to an attorney's office, greeting the snooty receptionist with the phrase, "Pizza time," before he refuses to pay for the pizzas because they're a few minutes late. By the early 2010s, the quote had become a meme in its own right, and so Far From Home director John Watts decided to pay an ultra-subtle tribute to it in his movie. Now that is a low-key Easter egg. Number 2. Captain Britain and Storm. Avengers Endgame. Though it seemed like every last Easter egg and reference had been uncovered in Avengers Endgame, an intrepid Redditor recently discovered 2 possible comic book references sneaked into some of the movie's offhand dialogue. When Cap and Tony Stark travel back in time to S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters in the 1970s, a disguised Cap sneaks into an office where he briefly notices Peggy Carter. Though both Cap and the audience are distracted by Peggy, the subtitles reveal that a soldier is informing Peggy that Braddock's unit has been stopped by lightning strikes, seemingly referring to Brian Braddock, better known by his superhero moniker, Captain Britain. Things get weirder though when Peggy is told it's not lightning strikes we're looking at, which some fans have interpreted as a nod to X-Men's Storm, given that Thor was a good few decades away from first arriving on Earth. While it's highly unlikely either of these lines were anything more than playful references for fans, it is nevertheless neat to theorise that Captain Britain is already part of the MCU, and Storm may well be also. Number 1. The Final Whisper, Lost in Translation. And finally, we have a legendary movie scene that's become infamous with fans precisely because they had to go about deciphering it themselves. Sofia Coppola's fantastic drama Lost in Translation concludes with Bob and Charlotte saying a bittersweet goodbye to one another, another, with Bob whispering something inaudible in her ear before they kiss and part company. Fans have debated the content of Bob's words ever since, with Coppola ensured not to subtitle the dialogue when the movie was released on home video. In the years following the movie's release, however, a few dedicated fans have put the scene through computer filters in order to try and deduce what Bob was saying, resulting in two popular and, yes, subtitled interpretations. The first and more convincing of the two has Bob saying, "I have to be leaving, but I won't let that come between us, okay?" The second says when John, Charlotte's husband, is waiting on the next business trip, go up to that man and tell him the truth, okay? The former certainly seems more in line with Bob as a character and where the story was going, while the second sounds a tad clunky and unnatural. Hilariously though, Coppola couldn't even subtitle the dialogue if she tried, because it was improvised by Bill Murray on the spot. After finding it inaudible during post-production, Coppola actually considered having it dubbed. In the end, the director preferred the ambiguity, and a classic movie moment was born. And there you are, the 10 movie details hidden in subtitles. So let us know your favourites down in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, click that subscribe button as well as the notification bell to be notified of any new videos coming your way. But for now, I have been Kirsten Ria from What Culture, and I will see you in the next video.